Hello, this is Bryan Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and I tried to find a more interesting backdrop for this video, but it's nighttime here and we're in the midst of what the National Weather Service calls a blizzard, which basically means they're expecting us to get about 2 to 5 feet of snow by the morning, so unfortunately this was the most interesting environment I could find for this blog post. Now today I want to talk about a subject that's a little bit more personal to me, a little bit more close to home. And it's basically how I discovered rife machine technology and how it has changed my life. The reason that I wanted to bring this up is because there was an article in a Seattle newspaper, the link to which you can find above in the text of this blog post, which basically said that there's an attorney general that's pressing for all experimental medical devices to be banned from the market and basically made illegal. Now I can completely understand the motivation and why regulators would want to do that, and I don't really have any hard feelings, but maybe if you understand my story and why I chose rife machine therapy, you would understand why I'm pretty passionate about the subject and why I want to talk to you about this today. The story started when I was about 7 years old and started to get some pretty strange symptoms. To make a long story short, when I was about 25 I got diagnosed with Lyme disease and went straight downhill. I did all the normal treatments, oral antibiotics, IV antibiotics, and I ended up pretty much cleaning out my life savings account by trying all kinds of crazy treatments. I went to Reno and did a $20,000 treatment over the course of about 2 weeks, during which I was given substances that would make me have high fevers and thrash around and feel generally pretty awful. I went to Italy and spent another $20,000 on a treatment called ICHT, which stands for intracellular hyperthermia therapy, during which time the patient in the room next to me actually died from complications of the therapy. But anyway, to make a long story short, I didn't get better. I kept getting more and more debilitated, and I was pretty much at the end of my rope and ultimately almost suicidal. So I happened to be talking with a friend of mine named Mark, who told me about rife machines and told me that they had helped him quite a bit. I went back home, I got on the internet, and I started to do some research. I found a very obscure website that talked about a guy named Doug who invented a machine and basically cured his Lyme disease. It took me quite a long time to track Doug down. I had to dig for months and months, finding different phone numbers, and I eventually found out he lived in Seattle, but I didn't know where he lived, and believe it or not, I was actually ready to get in my car, pack my bags, and go up there and knock, going door to door. I know how insane that sounds and irrational, but that's just how sick I was. So eventually I ended up finding his number, and one of the funny twists of the story is that I went back to the website where I was able to track him down a couple months later, and the website had been taken down. Now, I don't think it was any type of conspiracy. Instead, I think that, whoever was maintaining the site simply decided to stop maintaining it. So basically, had I looked just a few months later, I would have never found the information that I found. So I put together about $1,000 worth of parts for the machine that we call the coil machine, or the Doug device, which is a type of rife machine. And now that I had Doug's number, I called him up and I said, look, I'm on my way up there. It's about 1,000 miles. I'm leaving right now, and I'm going to be knocking on your door. Can you help me? He was a little bit taken aback, but he did help me. I went up there for the weekend. I had a horrible drive, stayed at a friend's house in Grants Pass, Oregon, which was about halfway there, and just felt awful the entire time. Got to a hotel room in Seattle on pretty much my last dollar, and I would say it was the rock bottom, low point of my entire life. Anyway, turns out Doug was an incredible man, really an angel if you would ask me, and he didn't charge me any money. He's never charged anybody any money. From all I could tell, he looked like he was pretty okay financially. He helped me build the machine, sent me home. I set it up in my little bedroom in my house, and basically from day one I knew that the rife machine was going to be what would turn me around. I had an awful Herxheimer reaction that put me in bed for a week. I mean, I was having horrible nightmares and awful muscle soreness, tenseness in my neck, and that type of thing. But I could tell that it was working because despite all those Herx reaction symptoms, I could just feel my body finally clearing up and winning the battle. People with Lyme disease know what I'm talking about. On the one hand, a Herx reaction can be a very awful thing, but on the other hand, some people tend to feel a sense of relief when it's happening. So I just wanted to share a little bit about how my story unfolded and the reason that I'm so passionate about rife machines. And given the fact that the website disappeared shortly after I had found that information, that's sort of what drove my passion to write my first book, Lyme Disease and Rife Machines. I knew that this information was very important, and I also knew that it was disappearing for some reason, so I really wanted to get it out there. Now, of course, I'm not a medical professional, and I can't tell you or anyone what to do with your life or your health. That's really between you and your doctor. But what I can do is I can share information, and I can basically tell you what happened to me and tell you what's happened to other people that I've talked to. And you can make a decision from there. You can decide what's right for you or for your family. So I'm Bryan Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and please remember I'm a journalist, not a medical professional, so this video post is for informational purposes only. If you want to learn more about my book, Lyme Disease and Rife Machines, where I describe this experience and some of the research that I did on rife machines, you can do so at lymebook.com. That's LYMEBOOK.com. Okay, signing off from South Lake Tahoe.